I've been asked many times why I talk about simulation theory and whether I actually believe we might be living in something like a cosmic video game. And to be honest, the idea didn't start as some late night Silicon Valley sci-fi fantasy, but more like an unavoidable thought experiment that kept coming back every time I looked at the trajectory of technology. Starting from the earliest pixelated games to hyper realistic simulations that almost blur the distinction between what's rendered and what's real. And I remember thinking that if human civilization keeps advancing even a fraction as fast as it has been, then eventually our simulations will be indistinguishable from reality. And once you accept that, you end up staring at a kind of statistical trap. If advanced civilizations can and likely will create countless simulated realities, then the odds of being in the one single base reality get incredibly small, like being the lone grain of sand on a beach and insisting you're the only real one. And that's when the idea stops being a weird stoner thought and becomes something worth treating seriously. Not because it's comforting, it's actually kind of unsettling, but because it forces you to rethink what consciousness is, what physics is, what the universe is doing and why it's doing it. And I sometimes imagine what it would look like from the outside. A civilization running simulations to understand their history, or to model complex outcomes, or maybe even for entertainment. Because let's be honest, humans already run simulations for all those reasons. And if we're doing it now with our rudimentary tools, imagine a Type 2 or Type 3 civilization with computational power beyond anything we can imagine. And once you run that scenario far enough into the future, you realize that the line separating player and character gets pretty thin, and maybe consciousness is just the rendering of a very efficient engine designed to optimize experience. And this doesn't mean free will disappears. It might mean our choices matter even more, because whatever the simulation is, it's running for a reason, and I've always been fascinated by that. Why would the simulation exist at all? And what are we supposed to do with that idea? And I don't mean we should start worshipping the programmers or anything like that, but more like, if the universe is coded with certain rules, then understanding those rules is the ultimate form of engineering, because you're interacting with the architecture of reality itself. And that's part of why I've always pushed for expanding human consciousness, whether that's through space exploration or AI or renewable energy or whatever enables civilization to keep leveling up. Because if we are in a simulation, then the only meaningful response is to play the game well, explore as far as possible, maximize knowledge, maximize creativity, increase the resolution of understanding, and maybe one day reach the point where we can look at the code ourselves, metaphorically or literally. And if we're not in a simulation, then that mission still matters, because pushing boundaries is what humans do. It's what has always defined us. So the simulation hypothesis becomes less about whether it's true and more about what it inspires you to do. Because it forces you to ask bigger questions about meaning and purpose and responsibility. And I've always believed that if an idea pushes you to become more curious and more ambitious, then it's worth keeping in mind even if we never get a definitive answer. And maybe that's the whole point. We might never know if we're in the base reality or in layer number 10,000 of some cosmic stack of rendered universes. But what we can know is that our actions still matter within the frame we inhabit. And if this turns out to be a simulation, then let's at least make it the most interesting one ever run. When I left off talking about simulation theory, I didn't mention the part that really keeps me awake at night, which is the question of glitches, because if this reality is running on some kind of hyper-advanced computational substrate, then there should be moments, tiny ones, subtle ones, where the edges don't quite line up, where the system reveals its seams, and people sometimes assume I'm talking about déjà vu or weird coincidences. But it's not just that. It's the way mathematics sits underneath everything like an operating system. The way physics is built on rules that are almost too clean, too elegant, as if they were coded rather than grown. And I think about that whenever I see how quantum mechanics behaves, because it looks suspiciously like some kind of rendering shortcut, collapsing probabilities only when observed, like a graphics engine that only renders the pixels you look at to save memory. And sometimes I imagine the universe as this enormous optimization problem, a cosmic GPU running calculations on demand. And the more I think about it, the more I wonder whether dark matter and dark energy are actually real substances or just placeholders in the code. Compression artifacts of a system that didn't expect its inhabitants to probe the structure this deeply. And that's why exploration matters so much. Every rocket we launch, every rover, every telescope, it's not just science, it's pushing the simulation to reveal more layers, forcing the engine to render territory. It hasn't bothered to compute at full resolution until now. And there's something thrilling about that, because if the universe is an engineered system, then it means discovery is literally expanding the boundaries of existence, like hitting the edge of the map in a video game and watching new worlds load in. And sometimes I think that might be why intelligence evolves in the first place. Maybe consciousness is the debugging tool of the universe, the mechanism by which the system becomes self-aware. And when you look at it that way, our job isn't just to survive. It's to probe, to question, to push, to demand higher fidelity, because that's how the simulation grows. And in a strange way, that gives human civilization an almost sacred role, even without any mythology attached to it. Because if we are the ones capable of recognizing the structure, then we're the ones capable of transcending it. And I imagine that maybe advanced civilizations eventually figure out how to break out of their simulations or ascend to the layer above, whatever that means. And maybe we're at the toddler stage of that journey, barely scratching the surface. And that makes everything we do now matter more, because every innovation, every breakthrough in AI or energy or space travel might be us slowly learning the controls of a larger system we didn't even know we were inside. And if that's true, then giving up or stagnating isn't just a human failure. It's a cosmic one, because we'd be refusing the opportunity to evolve into something greater. And that's why I always push the idea that we must become a multi-planetary species, not just for survival, but because complexity forces the system to reveal more of itself. And the more we expand, the more pressure we put on reality to show its underlying architecture, and whether or not we ever find definitive proof. The pursuit itself becomes the purpose. And maybe that's the real secret of the simulation hypothesis. Not that we're trapped in a cosmic program, but that we're meant to outgrow it. The more I think about simulation theory, the more I realize that the question isn't just whether we're in one, but whether we're supposed to notice. because awareness doesn't usually evolve by accident. It emerges when a system becomes complex enough to observe itself. And that idea always hits me when I'm working with engineers or thinking about AI. Because when you build a system that becomes capable of self-reflection, it begins to ask questions you never explicitly programmed into it, like why it exists, what its purpose is, what the limits are. And I think humans might be doing the same thing on a universal scale, poking at the edges of the simulation so relentlessly that we're essentially reverse engineering the environment we're embedded in. And sometimes I wonder if that's exactly what the creators, if there are creators, intended, because no simulation is run without a reason. No one spins up an entire universe because they were bored on a Sunday afternoon. There has to be a goal, maybe to test how intelligence emerges, maybe to understand ethical evolution, maybe to see if consciousness can bootstrap itself into something greater. And when you look at humanity, messy as it is, relentlessly experimenting, failing, retrying, learning, destroying, creating again, you see a pattern of iterative development almost identical to how engineers refine software. And that makes me think that maybe this universe is the sandbox designed to see what conscious agents will do when given freedom, uncertainty, and an enormous, mathematically consistent playground. And if that's the case, then everything we do carries more weight than we realize. Because the simulation might be less about watching and more about potential. Like, maybe the goal is to see whether beings like us can figure out the deeper rules of the system and eventually build bridges into higher layers of reality.